Welcome to the Cookie Life Network, where we're whisking it all. I'm Beth.
And I'm Allison. Don't forget, you can catch all the Cookie Community current events when you follow us on Instagram at Cookie Life Network.
That's right. And today we're not going to have the best of the zest.
Mm. We just had so much to pack into this interview, but we've decided that we will go ahead and do the best of the zest later on this week in a separate segment.
Yay! So now let's get, what do you say, to the meat and potatoes of it all? Today, we are so excited to have a guest whose cookies have been seen all around the world. She's got videos on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. Those videos consist of how to make royal icing, step-by-step tutorials, and just plain old satisfying decorating videos. Help me welcome Grace Gaylord from the Graceful Baker. Yay!
Hey.
We are so happy to have you with us today.
I'm so happy to be here, Beth.
Okay, Allison, you want to start off? We'll
Well,
just get right
for
into it.
people that don't know you, that aren't in the
Mhm.
cookie community, can you give us a little rundown of where you came from, how you got into cookies, and how you got to where you are now?
Oh, that's a story. I'll try and make it short. Let's see. So my name is Grace, not obviously, obviously. Okay. And I started working with royal icing about 10-ish years ago. So I come from a really artistic family. My mom is a painter. My sister studied to be a professional musician. My dad studied theater in college. So art is in my bones. I've been a musician all my life too. And I've always needed an artistic outlet, and for a long time that was music for me. I started dabbling in royal icing 10 years ago. It was first for Christmas 2010, I think. So I guess that's more than 10 years ago. And I did it like every once in a while, once every couple years at first, and then it was like just for the major holidays, which if you've ever done royal icing, doing it that inconsistently, it's painful every time.
What a medium to
Some
start with. Let's start with
I
royal
know.
icing.
I don't know what I was thinking. It was back in the day when Sweet Ams and Sweet Sugar Belle, their blogs were everything and their
Yeah.
YouTubes. And so that's really where I started. I started on blogs. Instagram was not a thing yet. And I did that for a few years. I was bopping around being underemployed. I studied international politics in college. I was going back and forth between DC and New York and trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life,
Right.
which is an ever evolving thing, right? And
As it should be.
I, as it should be, nothing is finalized. I ended up in New York City, back in New York City, 6.5 years ago now, and I started working at a wonderful job. I worked at the Juilliard School. It's a long story how I got there, but I worked on a really awesome program that was delivering a K through 12 performing arts program in music, dance, and drama, and which really hits close to my heart because I grew up in a benefiting from a performing arts education, but it's not something that I pursued as a career. And I really loved that job, and it gave me a lot of balance in my life. And it was like a year into that job that one Halloween, I don't know, I just felt inspired. And I brought in some royal ice and cookies, and I have a picture of that set, and it's like, it is the most incoherent set ever because when I first started royal icing, it's something I encourage people to do is, or at least it worked for me. I would tackle a set and I would just try everything. Like rarely would two cookies be the same. I was just like, let me do this, let me do that. Some work, some didn't. It was okay because there were enough that worked that it looked good. But I brought that set in, I really should get these dates right. 2016, October of 2016. And that's kind of where the seed really started. And of course, wonderful reception from my colleagues. And they benefited for a long time from my cookies. I made
Right.
cookies for holidays, for whatever, and brought them in. They were my taste testers. They became my first customers. I have my, OG cookie benefactor, I like to say, now former colleague, but always friend. Um, got my first orders from her, and it was actually sitting in a collaborative cushion. We literally, that's what it's called, in this open floor plan cubicle area. I was sitting next to my colleague who is actually my now, or gosh, now former boss. But I was sitting next to him, and because everyone was encouraging me to start an Instagram with my cookies, and this was the end of 2017-ish, beginning
Yeah.
of 2018. And I was trying to figure out what a name to do, and I was like, I have no idea. And he said, "What about the Graceful Baker?" He came up with my name, play on my name, but also a play off of one of his favorite bakeries in the town that he lived in.
Oh,
And it's stuck. Play on my
yeah.
name. So the Graceful Baker. So it was in the beginning of 2018 that I started posting videos, to cookie decorating videos. I like all of this honestly is a happy accident. None of this was planned. I had no idea what I was doing. I just liked this medium. I don't know why I decided to start filming one day. I just did. I threw some videos on Instagram, and I found myself a niche of content that both people loved and easily went viral. And if you have been with me from the beginning, I went from 0 to 100,000 followers in about 6 months at the end of 2018.
It was crazy watching you because I have been with you from the beginning.
You an OG follower?
Uh-huh. And I'm like, it happened so quick. I mean, I
Yeah.
remember watching some of your first videos, and then the
Mhm.
next thing I know, you're doing your 100K giveaway.
Yeah, when I first started, if any you've been there from the beginning, I would make cookies for every 1,000 follower count that I hit. The first three, I think two or three were just photos, and then I started making videos of them. And I got to a point I had to stop at 20K because I was doing them like every other day at some point. I was like, I can't keep doing this. But yeah, I will say it was back in the day when people could explode on Instagram. It's not really a thing anymore unless, I say unless you're Amanda Gorman and you are recite a poem at the inauguration. Like, it
Mhm.
Right.
doesn't really happen anymore with today's algorithm, which is kind of frustrating. But so I got to benefit from the early days. And I went from someone who knew nothing about social media, was like not active on my own personal social medias, to suddenly I was an influencer. I'm a what? Like
I'm a who?
what is this? Uh it happened really fast, and for those who have been here for a long time, it's been a roller coaster for me ever since I took my first break right at Christmas. Like I was on break when I hit 100K, which was what like bittersweet to hit that milestone while I was stepping away for a hot minute. And so going into 2019, I just like hit a stride, and I was posting a lot, and I started teaching in the fall of 2019. I did my first no, wait, we're talking, yeah, 2019. I losing track, whatever. I did some teaching in person. I did a couple of pop-ups. I did some selling of cookies, and I learned really quickly that selling cookies was not what I wanted to do full time. To all of the cookiers out there who sell cookies, I applaud you. It is a tremendous amount of work, physical labor, mental labor, and 99.9% of cookiers out there are underpaid. So I just knew it was not something I wanted to do. And at the time, cookie production and or teaching was the thing to do if you were a cookier. And I was like, this is not for me. And I didn't see a path that was for me. I was just doing what I loved. So I just kept doing what I loved. And I'm realizing this is the long version. I said I was going to be short, but
No, I'm
No, it's
loving
good to
it.
hear the
you're
details.
getting the whole story. You're getting the whole
Yeah,
story.
because
So,
did you find it addicting? Like once you started,
yes. Yeah.
so
So
addicting.
the I have been on I've I've learned the hard way very quickly the effects of social media, the high highs and the low lows. That first break I took was spurred because of my first social media drama, and I just couldn't handle it and I had to step away.
Yeah,
That's a whole other like
good, the bad, and
social,
the ugly.
yeah, the
Yeah.
good, the bad, the ugly. So I was living, thriving, teaching, making good money teaching, but I was like dying, producing content, teaching, doing my day job. And I'd been through some breaks again, but I hit the most epic of epic burnouts at the beginning of 2020, which just happened to coincide with the
The world
panorama.
closing. Yeah.
Um,
The panorama.
And I'm on social media, so you want to stay away from saying certain words because then the algorithm
Mhm.
will.
Yep.
Um, so I ended up taking a 5 month break from cookies, from social media. I didn't know if I was going to come back because I was so burned out. Like the fire, the enjoyment completely left me. Physically, I was in a bad place with my health, and so I spent the 5 months working on me, working on my health, my mental, my physical health. Like I've talked about it a little bit, my self-love, personal healing journey.
Good for
And
you. That it's
thank
so
you.
needed. It is so needed.
Yes. It was a blessing in disguise, the panorama. Because I started working from home in March of 2020, which I'd never done before. I was an office job person. Um, and I had so much more time on my hands. I wasn't commuting. I wasn't being forced to have a social life. It sounds terrible. I'm an introvert.
Interacting with people.
Everything just takes so much more time in New York to get anywhere, to do anything,
Right,
which
right.
I take it. I love living in New York City. So I had more time to just devote to me. And it took about 5 months for me to start missing cookies and missing social media. I'm honestly glad that I wasn't on social media at the beginning of the panorama. Can't imagine. I wasn't even on there personally. I had deleted the apps. It's gone from my life. So late summer 2020 was like, I miss it. I miss creating. I miss the outlet. I miss the engagement. And came back with a fire in me.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't I just like full force came back late summer of 2020. What happened. And at that time, I was still just on Instagram, making, for anyone that's curious, like basically nothing. I had an Amazon affiliate. I was a member of I was an Amazon affiliate, whatever you call that.
Yeah.
And I was making maybe $100 a month, plugging,
The
the
products that you
leggings
used
and
and stuff.
products that I use, that kind of stuff.
Right, right.
So for all intents and purposes, like I spent 2.5 years, whatever, making zero dollars, churning out all that content, making nothing. But I was doing something that I loved, and I had a job that was paying my bills, which is a privilege. I recognize that. And I was able to like slowly grow something that spoke to me. And in the late fall 2020, I joined YouTube, which was something people had been asking me to do for ages, but I was like, "Oh, that sounds terrifying." But I
Right.
finally like just did it. And I'm really glad that I did because in December of 2020, I made my first real paycheck as a content creator,
Wow,
which was
yay.
like, whoa. I'm a fan of transparency. I mean, I made $3,000 in December 2020, and this was like, what? I mean, I can make real money doing this. And so my wheels started turning, and I was like, whoa, maybe I can actually be a content creator, be a cookie content creator. And I got so excited, and like I was mapping out all these financial models and
Yeah,
whatever. Like I like spreadsheets. And
right.
then January 2021 hit, and I got hit in the face with the stark reality of social media income. And I went from all the way up here to all the way down here. If so, YouTube revenue is based off of ad sales, my basic understanding. And when you look at the marketing ad life cycle, so December 2020 is the last month of the last quarter, and that's when all of the money that's left over from the year gets thrown at advertising. So even though I had some viral videos on YouTube, which is why I exploded, but I was just making really good money because it was the last month of the last quarter, as opposed to the first month of the first quarter is the lowest paying month. So I went from $3,000 to $500 overnight, and I was like, what just happened? My dreams just died in 1 month.
My
You're like, but my
spreadsheet.
spreadsheet says this.
I was like, doesn't it just keep going up? No, it does not. Social media income is like this. And this is one of the most frustrating things about being a content creator is you can be putting out your best work 365 days a year, and you do not have complete control over how well it performs and how much money you make off of it, which is frustrating. But it's the nature of the beast.
Right.
So I'm feeling pretty low January 2021. Like maybe I got ahead of myself here and this is not actually going to happen. I was like, bummer. February, March, I joined TikTok, which was another thing that I had personally not done myself, but that's what the kids were doing. Unbeknownst to me, I mean, if you're on TikTok, TikTok just exploded during the panorama. It went from just something that was for teenagers to suddenly every generation is now on TikTok. I'm a millennial, and there are now a lot of millennials on TikTok, and even my parents' generation, they've got their own niche. And so now I'm on TikTok. I joined the Creator Fund on TikTok, which of all of the social media paying platforms, it's the lowest paying of them all, notoriously, in terms of like dollar per view. All of the platforms are pretty not super transparent about the correlation between how much you make and the views. YouTube is
Right.
the most. But anyway, so TikTok, lowest paying. I was making literal cents on TikTok, and I was like, well, this is going nowhere. I've got like 10,000 followers on TikTok. I'm about to give up on TikTok because this is a waste of my time. And then March, April 2021, I is when I release or launch, debut my set celebrating Black women that was too late for Black History Month because I just couldn't get my life together. But here we are. And this set was very much part of my own personal journey of becoming actively anti-racist, something that I also began um, along with a lot of other people in the summer of 2020, and
Right.
figuring out my own way and how I could make a positive contribution to our society, to our culture, to making a real difference, a real change. And the side note on that set was I wanted to do a positive representation of arguably the most marginalized group of people in our culture, in our society, which is Black women. And I wanted to showcase something about them that is heavily scrutinized and has been for a very long time, is a very sore subject for many, which is their hair. And it's because we live in a white Eurocentric society that favors blonde hair, straight hair. And then I also wanted to feature Black women's contribution to our society. So I did a huge research on historical and contemporary Black women who have done amazing things, and there are a lot of them. But that set, I'm very glad, had a huge positive response, or I should say huge response, let's start there, on all platforms, so TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. It is the set that made me skyrocket on TikTok. I went from 10,000 to like, oh no, I don't even, 300,000 in a week or something, which is just absolutely insane. TikTok unlike Instagram, is a platform where you can really grow out of nowhere, which is really awesome for certain creators, especially small businesses. It also comes with some downfalls of growing that quickly. But so that set really kind of put me on the map, I would say.
And I would just like to jump in and say
Yeah.
that was an amazing set, and what
You're
you
showing it
did,
again right now, aren't you?
Yeah.
it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
And
Yeah.
It's
one
awesome.
thing, and I know I comment this on your posts all the time, I do love how much research you do for every set you do, whether it's for
A
a
holiday.
yeah, a cultural holiday or a historic, event. It really, I mean, especially with Instagram, you're like, who reads the captions?
Yeah.
But I will sit there and I'll just like read it,
I
like,
do. I
yeah.
do.
And I appreciate it so much because I
Yeah.
learned so much.
Yeah. I love that you bring that up, and it's so I kind of skipped past the start of my kind of shift in content to be more inclusive. It started in December of 2020 with a Hanukkah set, and I don't know if it was I just finally started listening and seeing, or if that was the first time, but I got a request to do a Hanukkah set, and I was like, that's fair. I'm doing a lot of Christmas right now, and Hanukkah could be represented. So it started with Hanukkah, then Kwanzaa, then Lunar New Year, then the set celebrating Black women. And that was the set that really put me on the map as like an inclusive cookier. I think I'm the only one called the inclusive cookier, so I'm gonna give myself, I suppose, that unofficial name. And as a side note, I mean, so this very much plays into kind of where I'm at right now. I so I spent I was riding high on my wave of success following wise. I was growing rapidly. I was making good money. I was in a place where I was like, I think I can actually do this. And that was when, so it was like spring 2021, that was just last year, was when the wheels really started turning. And I was like, I think I can actually do this. And I'll kind of make the end of this a little bit faster, but
No, take your
well,
time.
You made our
I,
job
I'm,
really easy.
I know.
So
I
it's
know, right?
nice.
I'm just like popcorn. Can we stop? Let me go get some
I
popcorn.
know. I'm real good at talking. Um, okay, because I've got two timelines now kind of going in my head. I really want to talk about what Allison brought up about how much she appreciates the research I do, and kind of finishing my timeline of how I got here to where I am. So let me finish the timeline, and then I'm gonna come back to Allison. So the spring 2021, I'm making decent money on three different no, sorry, at that point it's still two platforms. It's YouTube and TikTok. And some internal shifts happen in me, which I did not expect. For the longest, I've worked for 10 years since I graduated from college at an organization. I've had paid vacation, I've had benefits, a salary, stability.
Yeah.
And for the longest time, I didn't want to give that up because I was like, who wants to have to pay for their own health insurance? Like, who wants unpaid vacation? I mean, crazy, but something around that time shifted where I realized how much I liked working from home. I really enjoyed what I was doing with my cookie life. I got asked over and over again by my colleagues, when are you gonna quit? When are you gonna do this full time? And I was always like, never, because I like I like the situation I've got going on here. But I slowly realized I wanted to work for myself, which outweighed my desire for stability. Um, I never thought this would happen. I was like, I want to be my own boss. I want to call the shots. I want to do what I want to do, work when I want to work, produce what I want to produce, work from home forever and ever. um,
Right.
and so I got really serious about figuring out how I could make this happen. And the timeline I ended up with, my last day was December 2015. 2015, December 15th, 2021.
Mhm.
I gave my job 2 months notice, which was like, I think a good sweet spot. I've been with these people for a long time. I was the first person in my role. It's basically kind of like a startup within Juilliard. Um, so it was going to be a hard transition, me coming out for myself and for the team. So I wanted to give them time, give myself time. But it was very much like a moving target of when am I going to have enough money to actually quit my job? Because I decided my first goal was to be making a full salary with cookies before I left my current job.
Yeah,
And then
right.
when I realized that was not going to happen, because something that's been brewing this whole time is my capacity to overextend myself has been getting lower and lower and lower. There was a period, especially around it was like end of 2019, beginning of 2020, and then when I came back at the end of 2020, where I was working 7 days a week, 12 plus hours a day, no rest, no vacation. I loved it, but my body was slowly like, I can't do this. I can't do this. Pull back, pull back. Um,
I'm shutting
so
down now.
yeah, I mean, my body was literally shutting down. In like June of 2020, I had my gallbladder removed in emergency surgery. Didn't know I had a problem with my gallbladder. I had another health flare March 2021, right when I started debuting the Black Women set on Instagram. You might have remember I suddenly was like, I gotta stop. I'll be back. Um, so it's been a lot trying to juggle my professional desires with my health at the same time. I realized that I was just gonna have to build my savings so that I could be relying on my savings when I quit. I was like, my goal was to have 6 months worth of expenses, which, first of all, I live in New York City. It's not a cheap city to live in. Second of all, taxes. I forgot that in my first spreadsheet that I need to account for taxes. Don't forget about that. So
Uh-uh.
6 months of living expenses and taxes, which was not a small feat.
Okay, so you're basically
Um,
rich at this point. You're good.
yeah. I was like anticipating that by the time I quit, I was hoping when I started full time that I could at least make like half of my living expenses in cookies and supplement the other half with savings. Um, Fast forward to the end of 2021, everything just seemed to like fall into place. It it seemed easy in the sense of like what I'd been working towards the last 4 years suddenly was just like fitting. I was And what I mean by that is like I was making way more money than I thought I was going to. I
And
was making,
timing is
yeah,
everything. It really is. The
yeah,
universe puts it together and you blah.
yeah. Suddenly, like I, because I also realized, so my plan was to have 6 months of savings, and then I also needed to diversify my income sources. So that was something that I started to do around summer of 2021. I was like, I need to have multiple pots to be pulling from because all social media income unpredictable. When one thing's down, one thing's up, and you don't really have control over where the moves, what's going where. So what did I add? I was already on TikTok and YouTube. That's when I started doing my consultations. If anyone's noticed those, I don't advertise them that much, but that was my way to offer some one-on-one in personal work. I'll plug those for a second because I'm for the moment I'm still doing those.
Plug
What do I do?
away. What are you
Oh,
doing?
plug. So I have three consultation options.
Okay.
This was my solution for a couple of things. Number one, um, I just don't have the capacity anymore for as much one-on-one as I used to be able to do in DMs, in comments. Managing multiple platforms as a one-person show is very challenging. So I wanted to give an option for people to have one-on-one interaction with me. And also one of the biggest questions I get asked is like, I'm a beginner. I don't know where do I start? What do I do? And as someone who is self-taught and figured all of this out myself 10 plus years ago via blogs. It can be done, but there's a lot of information to sift through on my platform, on other blogs, whatever. And, I knew there was a place for people to have their hand held through the process.
Right.
So my first consultation I call Royal Icing 101. I really should have my names down. Something 101. I've got too much stuff in my brain. But the first one is a 30-minute beginners. You don't need to prep anything. You show up. I talk for 20, 25 minutes. I've got my spiel of like, this is the cliff notes of everything you need to be thinking about if you're going to start working with royal icing. The stuff that I, kind of wish that I had known walking into it.
Right.
You also walk away with access to a private Google Doc, which is, in my opinion, like gold, pure gold. The kind of thing that when I get a blog one day, I'm going to put on a blog, but I don't have a blog yet. So it's sitting in this Google Doc. It's links, it's information. It's like
Oh, wow.
down and dirty of my kind of intellectual property on this front. So there's the beginner one. There's what I call the build your own, which is 30 or 60 minutes where we get to talk about whatever you want to talk about for 30 or 60 minutes. I've done a variety of different topics from like social media to my first big order. I don't have a lot. Something that people assume about me is that I have experience building a cookie production business. I do not. I have experience with pop-ups and I have done private sales and orders at the beginning of my cookie career, but I'm really a content creator. So the third thing that I do is my personal favorite. It is royal icing prep, and it is a 4-hour class on Zoom
Oh,
where
cool.
it's like I'm in your kitchen with you. We've got a couple setups, but I walk through making a batch of royal icing, my royal icing, because I make a special one. My special lemon, my batch of
Oh,
royal icing, and I walk them through how to make my 5 main royal icing consistencies. We bag the icing, we cut the bags, and we do a little piping practice. So it's a great introduction to actually making royal icing, because if you don't know how to make it, if you don't know how to make the consistencies, then if you go try to decorate, it's going to be a hot mess express.
yes.
So go check
Yes.
those out.
So
For
how
now,
how do we how do we check
it's a
that out?
great question. I should probably give you the link. So since I don't have a website yet, I have a Google site.
There you go.
Yes, I have a Google site which has all of the information you could possibly want to know about those 3 offerings. And I can give you that link and maybe
Yeah,
put it in the description of the
I
video.
sure can. I sure
Sure
can.
can. Okay. And this is something, my long-term goal as a content creator is I'm still going to be on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. I really want to focus on building my YouTube out. I want to have a blog eventually. So my capacity for one-on-one is going to probably disappear at some point. So if you want some one-on-one
Now's the
consultation time with me,
time.
now is the time. So get on that horse. December 15th was my last day at my work, but I don't think it was probably like a week after that that I announced on all platforms that I was taking a break and that I would come back with an exciting
I
announcement because I
know you
haven't told
left
the
us
world yet.
hanging. You just left us
I
hanging
know
there.
that was intentional, Beth. Wanted some
It worked.
anticipation. Good, excellent. So I came back. It was, what did I took my first vacation, real vacation in a really, really long time. I spent time with family in Vermont. I went on a beach vacation for the first time in my life with my best friend. I just lived my life. I came back.
Nice, eh?
Yes, it was real nice. It could have been even longer, uh, but I'll take what I can get. And I had a rocky return in January. I came back a week later than I anticipated because I didn't have heat or hot water in my apartment for a week. Our boiler broke in our building, and it turns out there's a shortage of boilers in the tri-state area. So I did not want to do anything that week. It was like enough to just pull myself together every
Survive.
morning. Yeah, it was
It was
I
cold.
spent time with family in Vermont. I went on a beach vacation for the first time in my life with my best friend. I just lived my life. I came back.
Nice, eh?
Yes, it was real nice. It could have been even longer, but I'll take what I can get. And I had a rocky return in January. I came back a week later than I anticipated because I didn't have heat or hot water in my apartment for a week. Our boiler broke in our building, and it turns out there's a shortage of boilers in the tri-state area. So I did not want to do anything that week. It was like enough to just pull myself together every
Survive.
morning. Yeah, it was cold. I didn't have a space heater because I didn't like I'm terrified of space heaters. So I
But
just
now
was
we
cold.
all own one of those things you were wearing that week to stay
Oh
warm.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. That thing was a savior. I got that for Christmas and I'm so glad. So I am on just finishing week 4 of doing this full time, and I'm realizing my messaging on that has not been great because I still have people who didn't get the memo that I quit my job, so I need to work on that one. But also I think a lot of people just assumed, like many people even over these years didn't realize that this wasn't my full-time job. That's
Right.
okay.
Right.
So where I'm at now, um, I went still kind of am. I went real hard the first 3 weeks, in case you didn't notice. Posting an enormous amount because what I was trying to do, for those who are unaware of the algorithms, when you take a month off, you disappear from the face of the algorithm earth. And I came back on all 3 platforms and I was like, oh, dying because even though I technically have all those followers still, my visibility from the algorithm is like non-existent. So I was just churning out content, trying to find my space again, trying to get seen again by the people already following me. And I'm in a better place now, 3 weeks in. Um, but it's interesting that we're having this call now because this week has been a week in the world of me. I hit my body hit my point again of Grace, you gotta stop. Slow your roll. I really need to listen to my body more often, not just when it like completely decombusts.
Right. When it's a
So
little too late and you have to like sit down.
yeah, yeah. So I've taken this week to kind of take a step back and look at what are my plans, what are my goals, what's realistic this year. I have a plan roughly through June of what sets I want to make, thinking about like um what kinds of sets I want to do, how often I want to make a new set. This is where so right now my goal is a new set a week, which for anyone who produces cookies and sells cookies is like just one set, Grace. Like but for me, I don't know. I mean,
No,
I've
but
never
your
That's a
sets are like
lot.
20 cookies with 20
okay,
designs, and you're doing
thank you.
like
And the
your sets are not
videos.
normal sets.
Thank you, Allison. I really needed to hear that. I mean, yeah, I'm definitely I'm very hard on myself in case you didn't notice. And something that maybe so one set a week is a lot for me. It takes me an entire day to decorate. I can't bag my icing the night before. I have to do it the morning of. So it's like an hour and a half, 2 hours in the morning, and then I decorate for like 6 to 8 hours, if not more. It's a long day. It takes everything out of me.
And then you have to everything has to be videoed,
Mhm.
edited. I mean, it's a lot because I do
Yeah.
still do customs
Hmm.
and churning out a set a week. Yeah, that's nothing if you're not videoing it and you're not
Yeah.
making note of everything you do. And then it's got to be sent to the editing department, which is, hey, you,
I'm the editing department.
Well, and
right?
then again, your research department
Yeah.
is you, which you're
Yeah. Yeah.
pumping out
So,
paragraphs per post.
yeah. So I guess this is a great opportunity for maybe me to like just educate the world on what it is that like goes into my sets. Cause so making a set a week, um, as a content creator, it's my goal to always be putting out something new and different. So even if I'm doing a run-of-the-mill theme, like spoiler, what I'm producing, what I'm debuting next week is Mardi
Yeah,
Gras.
yeah,
Like Mardi Gras, been there, done
yeah.
there. This is not a crate like the set already existed. Bless Jessica cut it out cutters. But I'm always doing something different. So I rarely ever repeat a cutter, a design. I mean, I of course reuse basics and like plaques, but I'm always pushing myself to do new techniques. None of it is like routine for me, so that's part of my struggle in actually decorating. Um, in terms of creating the sets, so there, what am I trying to say? Outside of, okay, so right, you said so filming, there's the filming the set, which at this point I have filmed every cookie I've decorated since 2018. So for me, it's pretty routine. I have a lot of content. Actually, just side note, I have the 2 terabyte iCloud like plan.
Yes. Oh my
I
God.
just hit 2 terabytes and it was like upgrade because you've hit your maximum. There's no plan above 2 terabytes. I don't know
Two
what to do.
terabytes is a lot of content, Grace.
Yeah, so I got it. That's another thing I have to figure out is because my iCloud has stopped syncing because I have too much content. Anyway, side note. So, but it's like the after just making the set, designing the set, making the set is just one piece. Then I have to edit the photos. I have to edit the video content, which I'm putting together reels in portrait mode. I'm also putting together landscape for YouTube. I'm doing different iterations of the films, writing the content, putting the content together. Like each platform has their different version of the same content. Um, and I'm at this crossroads right now. I'm at this interesting crossroads of figuring out how much can I actually do? Because for the longest time, for 3, 4 years, it was just I did what I could when I could because I had a full-time job. And now it's like, what do I want to do? How much do I want to take on? And circling back really long around to Allison's point of appreciating my research, um, I reached a point this week where I was so above, like drowning above my head and trying to figure out, can I produce a set a week? If I'm doing a set a week, what kinds of topics and content and like themes can I be covering at that rate of a set a week? And when I step back and look at the different kinds of sets that I do, the inclusive sets take so much more out of me. The research, because I'm stepping into a community that I know nothing about. And so my own personal responsibility is first to educate myself and bring myself up to a level of some degree of fluency and being able to like understand and speak about what it is that I'm representing, coming up with a set that is I like to do something that's elevated and respectful and not like typical and chintzy that you might find representative of that culture community. I'm also working with someone else on their timeline. I call them my consultants, someone in the community that kind of reviews my designs and my ideas before I actually execute them to make sure that I'm on the right page. Um, Obviously executing the set, which is like, okay, more or less like any other set. But then when that is done, putting my research together for all of the captions, um, there's a lot more like tender loving care that goes into releasing a set of this kind. So it's a lot of time. It's a lot more time that honestly I never quantified before this because I didn't really pay attention. It was like staying up till midnight one night, whatever, just like writing my captions, who cares? Now it's like I care if I'm up until midnight because I
Right.
want more balance in my life. And the other thing that I haven't really talked about and that I honestly struggle with the idea of talking about is the mental load and the effect that this has had on my mental health. I will try not to cry
Yeah,
because
right.
it's still kind of fresh right now. Um, I kind of fell into doing this inclusive content from the best place, especially the set celebrating Black women. It was very much my own way of processing. And I saw it as part of my own journey, as the contribution I wanted to make. So 'cause the sides that some people maybe don't see is that was the turning point in my presence in social media. Before that, the worst criticism I had ever received was like, "You suck at decorating." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Go home." I mean, I don't care. Great. I know I'm good, or I do have my own moments, although I always say where I'm like, anyway, where I think I suck. But we all do that. We all feel that way.
We are our own worst critics.
Yes, we are. But this, I started to receive the kind of criticism that I've never received before. Criticism of my character, and it was really hard. It was a lot of it was a lot of crying. It was a lot of talking to family and friends. Um, you may have noticed I was on Facebook sort of passively. I am no longer on Facebook because the people of Facebook are very mean. It was not it was not a home for me, and I said, "All right, I'm exiting." I have three other platforms. And it's even the holiday sets. Someone always has something to criticize. And it's really challenging as a creator to be putting so much into something, knowing that someone's always going to have something to point out about.
How it's going to be received. And what it's like, people don't realize that there's humans on the other side of this account that, like you said, it's raw emotion and you're putting that out there, and people can be evil. And I hate you went through that. I know one of my questions was, I know being a content creator and as large as you have gotten, that, you know, the criticism that has to come with that, more so for you than myself, and how you handle that.
Yeah. So I've I've gotten two main banks of criticism. I also, if you follow me on TikTok, I blew up for this video where I talked about hypothetically charging $10 a cookie. It's my most viewed video at like 40 million views. It's absurd. I would not intend to explode. I talked about hypothetically charging $10 a cookie and like walking through, okay, so how long does it take me to make 2 dozen cookies at $10 a cookie and how much am I paying myself? What people don't realize is I would actually charge more than $10, but I was
I
just
was
like,
about to say,
I was
and
gonna
you're
say,
getting a deal at $10.
let me just throw out a number. But I received so much hate on TikTok.
I did not know that.
Oh, but the thing is, that kind of criticism, I was like, you're cute. That's cute.
Mhm.
That's cute.
Well, it's harder with your, like I said, the holiday sets and everything
Mm-hmm.
because it's already a sensitive subject for the
Yeah.
person watching it if they're of that ethnicity.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're already looking at it in a different perspective.
Yeah.
And then so it's easy for them to come back at you
Yeah.
in a way that you might not understand, you know? And then at the same time, you're, like Beth said, you're a human and you're just like, whoa. And
Yeah.
even if it's something that you may not have understood was so sensitive in that culture, you're just
Mhm.
like, there's almost no way to even apologize and rectify it. You know,
Yeah.
there's no way to do the right thing. Like you can never
Yeah.
please everybody. So
Yeah. And that is a global lesson being a content creator. No matter what content I put out there, I am never going to make everyone happy. And that is one of the hardest things I've had to accept. And if I'm being really honest here, I don't know if I've completely accepted that reality.
And that's
'Cause
okay too. That's
I am
okay
a
too.
people pleaser. Like I
Mhm.
want to make people happy. But this week it all came to a head and made me realize, like, of all the different kinds of content I put out there, the diverse content and inclusive content, while I have been incredibly proud of what I have done, and the response that I've gotten, because even though I talk about the criticism, like overall, it's been a positive response, and I feel like I have done something with great purpose, because who knew that cookies, cookie decorating videos could have such an impact? Um, what I'm also doing at the same time is checking in on my, like, someone said this to me this week, that content creation is a transfer of energy, and it's a transfer of me. So if I'm not fully in it, if I'm not taking care of myself, that transfer of energy is not going to be good energy, pure energy, happy. Like, it's going to be a rough transfer. And as a content creator, I'm realizing, and I realized this week, the number one thing I have to do is take care of myself physically and mentally. I have to be at my best to produce my best. And this is like the first time where I've really been able to, like, massage, figure out, put together what that looks like, which is both exciting and kind of terrifying, because, like I said, I've always just done what I could when I could, because I had so many limitations on my time. And I don't, I'm at a crossroads of, like, what is the next 6 months, year, 2 years, because I want to do this for a long time. Like, I want to make this a sustainable job for me.
We want you to do that too.
Thank you. And it's something else I realized this week, is when I think about, like, the hats that I wear as a content creator, I create soothing and satisfying content. The number of people that come to me because they have anxiety, um, and they watch my videos to, like, soothe themselves at night or in the middle of an anxiety attack, or parents with young kids who watch my videos in the middle of a tantrum or to calm down at night. Like, that's one audience that I speak to, and a hat that I wear. I love that part of it. By the way, I don't think people realize necessarily how much time I spent editing my videos to make them soothing and smooth. That's one hat. I wear an education hat, which first started with just educating on how I do what I do, how to decorate with royal icing. And then the third hat that I've started to wear more recently is this, like, inclusive content. And in, dare I say, in some ways, like an activist hat, advocate for marginalized communities. And when I take a step back and I look at that, I'm like, these are three very big hats. And I can't keep wearing all three hats at the level I've worn them. And so I'm like, okay, where do I want to focus my energy? What do I want to be doing? What brings me the most joy? Because, like, circling back to, like, content creation is a transfer of energy. I need to be doing things that bring me joy so that I can bring joy to other people. And I love I love the soothing, satisfying element of my content, and that's, like, really what I want to be focusing on.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I love soothing, satisfying. I do I like to so I want to focus on soothing and satisfying content with, like, a side of educating how to do what I do. God bless, again, the cookiers out there who are churning out in-person teaching, digital classes. That is incredible. That also takes so much out of you to do that kind of teaching over and over again. Um, that's not my focus when I say my side of teaching. Like, I like to teach less directly-ish through my captions, through YouTube videos. One day I'll start a blog and put a bit more content in there. Um, People have asked me, by the way, if I will ever do a book. I did get approached for a book deal last year and I turned it down, because the trick with books is that there's an exclusivity to the content that's in there. And there are two kinds of books you can do, I think, as a cookie decorator. Like, you can do a book of actual designs and sets, and that's not, to me, that's like a kind of dry, it's not really what I want. Like, I'd rather show people how to do what I do with, like, a video and a reel than a flat
In the book.
picture. Right. And then the other thing, which I was more excited about, was, like, tips and tricks and, like, lessons learned kind of thing. But what I realized was that's my intellectual property. And to hold that in a book and not be able to share that anywhere else is like, as a content creator, is not feasible in any
And it's hard
capacity.
in the cookie community too,
Yeah.
because you don't remember all the time where you saw it or how you learned it or how you figured it out. So
Hmm.
to claim something to be like, okay, this is mine in this book, it
Hmm.
might not, you know, because
Yeah.
I subconsciously grab things all the time and you might morph it into something of your own.
Hmm.
But there's never really some place to say this is where it originally came from, you
Yeah.
know.
And on that front, I'm personally of the belief that like crediting in the cookie world is a whole other conversation for another day. But like especially as a content creator, if you're putting your stuff out into the world, I put it out there because I want to share it with the world and I
Hmm.
want you to copy it. That's
Do
why
it.
I'm a
Yeah.
content creator.
Use
That's
it.
kind of the
Right.
point. We're showing you, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the people out there who get very, oh,
Butt
what's the
hurt.
word? Butthurt. Thank you, Beth. Butthurt. For people copying, like, don't put your stuff out into the world if you don't want it copied.
Right.
Is my personal opinion. So I'm not, people send me videos all the time of like, look at this account sharing your stuff and not crediting you, and I'm like, yeah, like for a millisecond I go, that's a bummer, but then I'm like, moving on, because this is why I put myself out there.
You
So
love it when people credit your stuff, but I mean, like you said, you put it
yes,
out there
yes.
because you're a content creator for the love of.
Yeah.
And like Allison was saying earlier, like she's a unicorn.
Yeah, you're a total unicorn.
Oh, why do you say that?
You-
I'm curious, Alison. Why
Well,
do you call
you're
me a
a
unicorn?
cookier that doesn't sell. You create
Hmm.
cookies like basically for yourself, you know?
Hmm.
Um, and it's just you're doing your own unique thing,
Hmm.
you know? I don't know anyone else doing what you're doing. Um,
you're a unicorn, girl.
I'm a unicorn. So one of the top three questions I get asked, which I get tired of answering over and over again on TikTok, which Allison you just brought up, what do I do with my cookies if I don't sell them? I get asked this all the time, so maybe this can this be the one time I answer no, because no one's gonna watch through this whole thing. But what do I do with my cookies? So the short answer is someone gets them. I donate them, I give them away.
mhm.
Um as I'm turning more and more towards just focusing on content, like once I make a batch of cookies, actually thinking about what to do with them is like, I just don't want to deal with it. I just want them to disappear. I've only thrown away two batches ever, maybe two sets ever, and that's because like I left them in the dehydrator too long,
Then
which
they're no longer
happens.
cookies, they're hockey pucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like, yeah, they just got stale, whatever. I mean, that rarely happens, but um, so to kind of full circle the like future content conversation, I'm really excited to be focusing on soothing, satisfying, because that brings me a ton of joy. I do also like to actively, passively have a side of educating how to do what I do, and I still like to educate in terms of um like the Super Bowl set, fun facts about the Super Bowl.
That was fun. That was
Why
cool to
not?
watch. Yeah.
It did really well on TikTok,
I
so
was about to say
I,
that's where I saw those was on TikTok.
yeah. Um, and then I'm gonna be totally honest. I'm at a place of trying to figure out how do I want to continue to include inclusive content and themes that is manageable for my time and my mental health. Because if I mean any creator, it is so hard to create when you're running on low in any way.
And that's for
Um,
anyone, you know,
yeah.
every baker. I mean, or mother or whatever, you can't be everything to everybody. You can't be
Hmm.
taking on, like you said, three hats at once. You have to figure out where your boundaries are and how you
Yeah.
pick and choose where you put your energy. You
Yeah.
know, if you're a cookier, you cannot say yes to every single order,
Hmm.
you know.
Oh, and I'm like you. I'm a people pleaser. I want to say yes to everything, and you just can't.
Yeah. And it's, can this be the moment, the call out moment of like, can I not be the only inclusive cookier?
Right?
Like, I don't need to be
right.
the only person wearing that hat. Please, I invite others. The thing, I mean, it is, I will say, and I've had some people say this to me of like how brave I am to do it, and I never thought of it as brave at first, but now that it's taken more of a toll on me, I'm like, actually, yes, yes,
Well, I
there
was gonna
is a
say there
degree.
are a few accounts out there that do it,
Yeah.
but it is a scary thing because
Hmm.
you are opening up yourself to attacks,
Yeah.
and it's
And I
hard.
like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
Oh no, go
interrupt.
ahead.
And like you said, this is part of your journey.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's part of your journey, and we all have things to learn, each
Yeah.
and every one of us from every ethnicity. And being, like you said, put on that hat. Don't be the only one. And it's something that we all could do better.
Yeah. Um, I was just looking through it for another quote that was helpful for me this week because I talked to a lot of people this week. I processed a lot and I was trying to like figure out my thoughts, my emotions, what's going on here. And yeah, as a recovering people pleaser and a content creator is like such a perfect storm of anxiety and stress because yeah, as Allison was saying, you can't be everything to everyone. And or even you can't be everything to one person even. Because if I do, and I've now that I've done more inclusive content, the requests I get coming at me from every angle on every awareness week, month, heritage history month, holiday, minority community, like I get everything. And as someone who is a recovering people pleaser, but also just like wants to make a positive contribution, I have such a hard time managing those requests and saying no. Like I this is this is part of my welcome to therapy session with Grace this week. Because the other part of my processing this week is realizing that I, especially over the last year, I have given so much of myself. And I am proud of what I've done and it has made a positive contribution, but I've just I've given too much of myself. And I'm at a place where I'm like, I need to give back to myself, you know?
Yep.
I know it's hard for me to it's hard to put yourself first. It's like in anything, right? It's
Yes.
hard to say that
Yes.
my needs are more important than your needs right now. Even though, oh God, please don't quote that. Put that out loud.
That's going to be
Hey,
the
but it's
number one snippet for the trailer. But I mean, I think
um
also people do forget that you, again, are a human and there are other things going on in your life. Like, even because I was talking to Beth, like, I was going through your stories and I'm like, I don't even know how you decorate because how do you sit down for hours at a time without
yeah,
like compression socks or something like to help with your physical health plus your mental health, you know? There are so many things going behind the
yeah.
scene on on your side that people don't see, you know?
Allison, you know me. You know me. Because your compression's not like I gather you know that I have lymphedema.
Mhm.
And I also am recognizing we are like so over the time that we plan to be, but
That's
we
quite all
still need
right.
to
We are.
okay.
I mean, it's not an episode of Dr. Phil, but I'm feeling the healing
You know,
happening.
every episode's
Feeling
different, and that's what
okay. All right. So lymphedema, right. So that was another thing that for the longest time was one of my top five reasons why I would never be a full-time cookier because yeah, sitting immobile is one of the worst things anyone can do, but especially someone with lymphedema. So I have lymphedema, which is in short, I was born with an underperforming lymphatic system. So my lower limbs swell. It's mostly in my feet, like below my knees. It's very minor, so people like most people don't probably no one notices it except me. I like to say I just have like pregnant lady feet all the time, and I've never been pregnant. But sitting decorating, and I back in the day, I would have like 12-hour decorating days. I'd be decorating till like 1, 2 in the morning, which is incredibly common in the cookie world. I'm just gonna say that.
Mhm.
Like the number of women whose stories are at like 3, 4 a.m. I'm like, y'all, we need to fix something here. Also, you need to get paid a lot more. We can maybe talk about that too, because I have lots of thoughts on how much people should be charging. But yeah, the number of like flare-ups I've had because of decorating, the number of times I've cried being frustrated that like something I enjoy doing makes me physically miserable. Um,
Mm.
so another part of my delightful come to Jesus this week, was that I have to prioritize my physical health. No ifs, ands, or buts, no more
Mhm.
excuses. Um, it's the working from home, it's being my own boss, it's doing a job that I can do sitting down. I don't, so that's like physical health. So making sure that I get out and go for walks, actually exercise. Nutrition also, I'm learning, has a much bigger effect on my lymphedema than I was ever told by Western doctors. So I'm also exploring that in my life. Um, but this also many full circles today as I'm
Yeah.
staring at the ring light in my glasses. So
Same.
um this was another way for me, like, so to become a content creator was another way that I could be what I wanted to be and manage my life the way I wanted to manage it. Because I only need to make one set a week. So I only need to be sitting immobile one day a week. Um, I have a pump, which is these are becoming a thing now in like therapies where people who don't have lymphedema use them, but it's a pump for my legs and it is, encourages the flow. Like using my hands. But one of the thank you. I'm glad you think I'm funny, Beth. I just laugh at myself. Anyway, but one of the things about working from home is I get to be editing on my phone and be using my pump at the same time, and it's a beautiful thing. Um, yeah, and because apparently I have a lot of things to talk about, is that was another big like thing for me in this journey was doing this the way I wanted to do it, which I would hazard I'm gonna say no one else. I don't feel like I really had an example in front of me. I mean, I would say Sweet Ams is probably the closest example in the cookie world to being a content creator. Um, she's very much a content creator who has been around a long time. So I think there are some ways that, I see her content creation as a bit more traditional. And I was looking towards like TikTok and just like different ways of like melding cookie and content creator into one, which I hadn't really seen someone else do before, at least the way I wanted to do it. So yeah, so it's one of the many reasons that it took me so
Well,
long
and I
to get
think it
here.
all kind of circles back to, like you said, doing it your way.
Hmm.
And for everybody, just boundaries on what's good for your mental health, what's good for your physical health. Because there are a lot of cookiers and bakers out there that maybe have chronic pain, like fibro or something,
Hmm.
but they push themselves, or they can be perfectly healthy.
Hmm.
Even Lisa from Borderlands is like, I've got to cancel this pop up because it's my body can't take it.
Yeah.
I think it's
Yeah.
just for us to have the wherewithal to be like, hey, I've
Yeah.
got to stop and I have to not be a people pleaser and put myself
Yeah.
first,
Yeah. That was something I did this week of like, I was gonna make a new set this week and I was like, I need to pull back somewhere. So sorry, y'all. I'm not gonna make a new set this week.
Right, right.
Um,
Also, going back to, or just what you were talking about, and nobody really doing what you do, or where you wanted to go with it. I know you
because
talked
you're
a
a
lot
unicorn.
because she's a unicorn. So,
wait, wait.
okay.
I don't want to show. But I have a unicorn. Just
Ah.
Ah, see, you're a unicorn.
I am a unicorn. Okay, sorry. Continue, Beth.
No, that's quite all right. Um, I read in a lot of you've been interviewed a lot, and there are a lot of things out there that you can find out about Grace. And one of you talked about finding a mentor, find a mentor.
Mhm.
And can just tell me a little bit about that and how
Yeah.
who your mentor was and what did you just give us a little on that.
Yeah. Okay. So this was also one of the top 5 things that made this happen. When I blew up at the end of 2018, I think that's when it was, or maybe it was like the beginning of 2019. Um, I saw that Chell Sweets. I don't know if you follow her at Chell Sweets. She's a cake person. Um, she lived in New York City and she was a cake content creator. And I was like, this is very exciting. I want to do what you do. So I reached out to her. I was a little old. I mean, maybe at this point I had like 100,000 followers, but little old me reaching out to someone I didn't know on this beautiful thing of social media, sent her a DM and I was like, would you mind getting coffee with me sometime? Because I'd love to pick your brain about what you do. So we got coffee, and she had just recently quit her accounting job, which was her day job, to do cake content creation full time. And it started off as just like a, can I pick your brain? Can we talk shop kind of thing? Um, something I love about her, she was very transparent about her financial logistical realities of everything. She was very happy to share that with me, which helped give me early on a realistic outlook on like what's possible, which I think is really important. Um, and it that grew into a tremendous friendship, and also, whether she likes it or not, she is like my number one mentor. I like to say that she is to cake what I am to cookie, or at least what I want to be to cookie. She is a total badass on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. She has an incredibly successful blog. Like, my parents probably are sick of hearing about Chelsea, but I'm like, I just want to be like Chelsea. But what finding a mentor in her did for me was I was able to see, as I'm looking at my awful hair. Um,
Oh, don't do it. I can't. Don't do it. You'll start messing with it.
um, I was able to see what was possible with her. And especially in this world of content creation, like there's no handbook for
Right.
being a content, especially the kind of content creators we are. Like, I feel like there's more of a handbook if you want to be like a fashion or lifestyle or food content creator, but not so much what we do. And so it's been huge having someone in the industry who I can turn to with every new thing that comes up and be like, Chelsea, help. And she's just one of the most generous people that I know. Because you can certainly find mentors who are not generous, but she is very generous with her time and her knowledge. I'm so grateful for that. Does that answer your question, Beth?
It did. Yes. Thank
Okay,
you.
you're welcome.
You know what I did want to ask you, because you
Yeah.
had touched on it earlier and you were just talking about Chelsea quitting her accounting job.
Mhm.
Like, you were saying that in the beginning of your journey, everything kind of just fell into place. But it sounds
Mhm.
like this decision took at least a year to become a full content creator.
Uh-huh.
What would you tell other bakers or any cookiers that are just like who want to become cookiers full time, even?
Yeah.
Like, what was the turning point that was just like, because even Beth and I were talking about it in our last interview. There is no good time to do something, you know,
Mhm. Yeah.
whether it's even like if you're saying, oh, I want to have children, there's no good time that you're never going to be fully prepared.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this is your baby,
Yeah.
this is what you're growing. And it's kind of like, what was that one thing that was just like, okay, I'm going to do it?
It is time.
What was like the switch moment that was like,
Yeah.
it's
And what would
time?
you tell other bakers, like
Yeah.
how to prioritize and how to figure it out? Because you were very methodical. You're like, okay, this is how much I want in savings, but like not
Yeah.
everyone has that option.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, what would you say inside you was like, okay, this is what I am choosing and this is why I want to change it?
Yeah.
Because you were just like, you know what? Doing it for myself was really outweighed that
Yeah.
security?
Yeah, I like too that you brought up, that not everyone can have savings like I can. Like I struggle when people ask me how to do what I did because I know that my scenario is not possible for everyone. It's a tremendous privilege that I had a full-time job with reasonable hours so that I could pursue something else on the side. And I know that that is not possible for everyone. And I've talked about this with other friends in the cookie community that um coming back to like inclusive diversity content
Yeah.
conversation, I think one of the reasons why our community is not terribly diverse is because being able to take that leap to do
Mhm.
cookies full time in any capacity um is something that takes preparation and is not something like, because you are, chances are, unless you are an overnight prodigy, like you're not going to be making a full-time living from day one. And there are a lot of people out there who may enjoy doing this, but need a full-time income from day one. And
Mhm.
it's not something that they can just do on the side when they've got bills to pay and kids to feed and clothe, and like it's not realistic for everyone. So I struggle. It's my roundabout, like I struggle answering that question. Because I know it's not possible for everyone. Um, I would say two things kind of need to be in place regardless of what direction you want to go. Um, Two things. So first of all, your heart has to be there 100%. I love that you brought up like you never know when you're gonna want to have kids, Allison, because that's also like percolating in my brain. But I think what I'm about to say also relates to like a big decision like having kids, is that you reach a point where the pros outweigh the cons. Like the things pulling you there outweigh the things pulling you away. And that's what would happen for me in terms of making this decision to do this full time. Was a long time, for a longest time, the cons outweighed the pros for me. And I was like, there are too many reasons not to do this.
Mm.
But then, for a variety of reasons, things shifted, and it was like the pros outweigh the cons.
Right.
Felt compelled to take the risk, and I was able to set it up so that I could take the risk financially, which I'm very grateful for. I would say the other thing, and I kind of struggle with how to phrase this, is you need to have your heart in it and you need to have the skill. Because at the end of the day, like if your skill isn't there, people aren't going to buy your cookies.
Mhm.
People aren't going to watch your videos. Particularly with the skill, I want to like, because I think if you're gonna walk into selling this, like, gosh, I want people to be charging more for their cookies. Um, and there's certainly something to be said about like starting lower when you first start out, because you're just starting out. You may be more of like a beginner. Your skill isn't quite there. So yeah, sure, charge a little bit less, but have a plan for yourself that scales your
Mhm.
pricing.
And I could not agree with you more because, like, I tell people that ask me that as well, being a cookier, like, where you are has a lot to do with your pricing, your demographics, and all that, and what you
Hmm.
are able to charge,
Hmm.
But I also tell people, like, you know, if you want a hamburger, you can go buy a $1 hamburger or you can go buy a $25 hamburger.
Hmm.
There's a need for all of us. So
Hmm.
whether you are starting out, you may not be charging more, and that's okay. But like you said, have that plan so that you can move up. You
Yeah.
know, I think that's
And
a good point.
people ask me all the time about pricing, and again, I give that same answer. I'm like, part of the reason, there are two reasons why I can charge, in theory, my hypothetical cookies as much as I do. Although, well, we won't talk about that here. But first of all, I live in New York City. I live in one of the most expensive areas in the world, number one, and number two, I am a big content creator. I am an influencer, and that carries weight
Mhm.
in how much I can charge.
Right,
To be
right.
blunt. Um,
And
but
my thing
on
is,
the
look, I charge
Mhm.
based on my talent, not your budget.
Yes. Yes. One of my favorite pieces of advice also from my dear friend Chelsea. Because I have pricing conversations with her all the dang time. Because I'm like, how much should I charge? And she's always telling me to charge more, and I'm always afraid to charge more. And what she says to me is like, yeah, if you double your prices, you're probably gonna get half the number of clients. But why would you want to work twice as hard for the same amount
Mhm.
of money? And it is scary to change your prices and know that you're going to lose people. But Beth, like you said, there's Walmart and there's the custom cookie shop. Like there's going to be something for everyone. And as you raise your prices, your customer base may change, but that's just part of the evolution. And wow, this is coming full circle to me as a content creator.
Yeah.
Because like my product is not, I'm not selling cookies, but I am selling my content in a way.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and I have to think about like if I want to be making content shifts, that's very scary because I know that I'm going to lose some people who came to me for a certain kind of content. And that is scary, but the thing is you are in charge of your business, of your brand, of your product. It's not
Yes.
your audience that directs it, it's
That's
you.
right.
That's another
That's
thing I
right.
Mhm.
learned this week. I
Yeah.
act like I am doing this, but I'm just learning this.
It's been a big week
The,
for you, Grace.
I need a nap.
But I
It
mean, and
has
I
been a
think we've
busy
all
Also,
week.
gone through that, where people are just like, trying to guide your business when you're just like, no, this is my brand, my business. And again, you have to set boundaries
Mhm.
because I think we've all heard it at one point or another when someone's like, oh, you should just stick to the cookies or something like that. And you're just like,
Yeah.
but I'm going to
mm,
do this,
that's right. And
And
also,
this,
every
yeah.
January, I give myself a raise.
Hey, that's what I like to hear. That's
Every
what I like to hear.
January,
Yeah.
and
Good
my
for you.
customers know now. They know every January. It's. I mean, it's a cost of doing business, sisters.
Um, I'm only peripherally aware of this because I own nothing of this. Chanel ups their prices every year, and from what I hear, their quality has gone down. But their customers know that their prices increase every year.
Yeah.
I know
Mhm.
this from my dear friend Arlene Chua because she buys a lot of Chanel. Um,
She is the expert on Chanel.
yeah, she's the Chanel expert.
That's right.
But I love that, Beth, like setting expectations with your audience too, and Allison talking about boundaries, like holy cow, that could be a whole other conversation. Um, and this makes me like I would like to do more. I've done this a little bit, but I do see an opportunity for myself, especially because I have such a large audience. Part of the reason that people don't charge enough for their cookies is because people don't the customer base does not understand what goes into these cookies, and they're
Mhm.
like, well, I can buy the same thing for 50 cents from Walmart. It's like, no, it's not the same thing.
Well,
Mm-mm.
even
You're not
like you
buying the
said
same
in
thing.
passing earlier, it takes an hour or two just to mix your colors in your icing,
Oh,
and people
oh,
don't see that. They're
yeah,
just like, oh, you just throw some food coloring in there.
yeah,
And you're like,
no,
Hmm.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to do more education on just like the behind the scenes, what goes into
mhm,
it.
Yes, because like the going back to the TikTok $10 cookie, or that I
Hmm.
saw that. I mean, more people, like you said, 40 million people now that we know have seen that are like, uh-huh,
Yeah,
okay. So it helped a
yeah,
little. You're educating people just a little bit about, hey, this is not your, I can go buy
yeah,
12 for 2.99 at Walmart.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
go
yeah,
get you a couple packs because
yeah, yeah,
you can also brew your own coffee and not go to Starbucks, but you
yeah.
choose to go to Starbucks. So-
Yeah. And then like that $10 cookie video brought up yet another problem we have with our society because people were like, I can't remember the salary that I came up with. I think it was like 57,000 or
oh
something
God,
based on
right?
$10 a cookie, working 40 hours a week, which no cookier works 40 hours a week. Let's be
Mhm.
clear here. But I just threw that out there. And oh, because the argument was like, I'm a nurse, I'm a teacher, and I don't make that much. You as a cookier should not be making that much. You're making damn cookies. And it's like, no, you as a teacher and a nurse
Should
should
be
be
making
making
more.
more.
Yeah.
Like it's not, I'm sorry, it's not my fault that you don't make as much as I do, but like we just
Mhm.
have a bigger problem here that we don't pay other industries as much as we should. Like we don't live in a society that values living wage, like in any that's
I know that's
there.
another whole show because, like,
Whole
my
other
husband
show.
is a first responder. He's a
Yeah.
fireman, and the things that he puts on the line on a day-to-day basis, and the things that he has to deal with.
Mhm.
But we can go play Major League Baseball or be in the NFL. Like that's another whole Dr. Phil episode.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
But
think what people don't understand too is we're not getting paid per hour. We're getting paid per cookie. You
yeah.
know, there's not a lot of industries that get paid per product you're sending out, you know?
The number of people that told me, I'm not paying you for your time, I'm paying for the cookie. I was like, do you understand how the cookies become the cookie?
It's from time.
And so when like people ask me about pricing, one of the things I say and I highly encourage is, first of all, any cookiers should be taking notes of how much time it takes them to do everything. And that's just, I think, like a general good thing to do, especially when you're a beginner. Take notes of what went well, what didn't go well. So when you come back to it like a week later, 2 weeks, a month later, like you know what you need to work on, right? I did not do that at the beginning. That was
I
not
don't think
good.
any of us do that in the beginning.
No,
Uh-uh.
but if you
We
do
don't
it,
do it until we get burnt out and we're like, we got to
yeah, and
figure
you're
this
like,
out, you
crap.
know?
But I encourage people to figure out the cost of your expenses and figure out how long it takes you and what do you want to pay yourself.
Yes.
It's simple, but it's revolutionary because it's like so many people who are charging like 3, 4, even $5 a cookie, they're not even paying themselves minimum wage.
Mhm.
I
And
mean,
it's
you
just
can't
like,
just figure your ingredients. You can't.
no, no,
You'll
no.
lose all day, every day. It's
Yeah.
like you said, write down everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're the labor. Like,
Yeah. Talking about
You're the
wearing hats.
labor, you're
Yeah.
the accountant, you're
yeah,
the shipping department, you're
You're the
everything.
packaging
Yeah.
department.
yeah,
You're
yeah.
all of
I
it.
like the editing department.
You're the videographer.
Send that
Yeah.
over to the editing department,
Yeah.
dang it.
Yeah. So,
Yes. Yes.
do you
Okay.
have any other questions for me? I know we've talked about a lot,
I
but I'd
know
love
we
to answer.
have. I don't. Let's
So
see.
this is a question that we're going to start asking everybody. We
Yes.
didn't do it
Oh,
with Lisa. I wish we had. But is
Uh-huh.
there any one piece of advice that you were given that like you've carried with you for like how do you apply that one piece of advice that may have
Ooh.
changed your life or that like just guides you in your everyday life?
it doesn't have to be cookie related, just
No, no.
Yeah.
any piece of advice.
Okay, the first thing that comes to mind, and I actually just this got
It's
so many
this
circles.
week.
This
All
week.
this week, all this week. This I actually just said this to one of my best friends yesterday, I think. So when I started my personal healing journey at the beginning of 2020, I started meditating for the first time in my life. I now have a daily side note. I'm gonna plug meditation. I meditate for 10 minutes a day. That's it. Like, I was that classic person who walked into meditating thinking that I needed to meditate like an hour a day, half an hour a day. No, 10 minutes a day. I love the Calm app. It's a great intro. Do the daily Calm every day. Side note. But through meditation, I learned many meditation mantras, yada yada yada. And my favorite one to this day, which I reminded myself of this week because I hadn't like internalized it in a long time, is where I am right now is where I need to be. And for
I'm gonna
someone
write it
who
down. I'm
I,
gonna write it down.
I have struggled with mental health my whole life, with anxiety, like, or people who don't even struggle with mental health. It's the concept that whatever I'm going through right now is what I need to go through
Mhm.
so that I can go to the next thing. Like it's preparing me for what's next. So this week, while this week has sucked royally for me in many ways, it needed to happen so that I could reevaluate some things and figure some stuff out so that I can shift where I'm going from here. I needed to cry this week. I needed to feel like shit this week. I
Mhm.
needed to like process everything that was happening so that I could move forward looking at like my cookie journey. I mean, I am a self-taught cookier. I didn't take my first class until basically CookieCon of 2020. So, you know, everything, while it has been hard to be a self-taught cookier, like it's all had its purpose. I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah, so where I am right now is where I need to be.
No, I totally
That
agree with
is
that.
powerful. It's very powerful. I
Because
like
even
it.
when someone says something like if someone had past trauma in their lives or something like that, or they'll come to me and they're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry that happened to you." I'm like, "Don't be," because it made me the person I am now, you know?
Yeah.
And that's without that, without this week that you're going through, who
Mhm.
knows what kind of person that would spit out in 2 years. You know, you're like,
Mhm.
I needed to go through this week to figure out where my boundaries are, how to process, figure out
Yeah.
where my business is going to go next, you know?
Yeah.
Well, I am excited about your upcoming soothing videos, your inclusive videos, everything. And we are going to move on to the get to know
Oh
you.
yeah.
Okay, you
Don't
ready?
didn't you get to know me?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
I'm
yeah.
kidding.
Oh, we about to. Or
Okay.
in the South, we fitting to.
Oh, we fit into? All
We
right.
fitting to.
Okay, so we're going to time you on this.
How long do I have? How long is
Well,
this?
it's however long it takes you.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you are being timed.
So Lisa was
Okay.
able to get this done in 3 minutes and 12 seconds.
Oh, so is
So,
this like a competition for whoever can do it faster?
Yeah,
mm,
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Lisa, come on.
yeah. Okay,
okay.
Allison, do you want to go first or me?
Sure. Since I've got
Okay,
the clock here.
okay, you go.
Okay. Guilty pleasure food.
Oh God. Every sweet under the sun. I mean, I just love sweets.
Book or movie?
Love Actually.
iPhone or Android?
iPhone, always.
Favorite vacation destination?
Oh no, that I've been to. Oh, probably Italy for the food.
Oh,
Mm.
good one.
We're all ooh. Cash or gifts?
Cash or gifts? Giving or
Yeah.
receiving?
Yeah, let's do both.
I mean, I love giving a good gift. Like that's definitely one of my love languages.
Night owl or early riser?
Early neither. Early, if I had to pick one, early riser. Enough sleep and get up early.
Spicy or sweet?
Ooh, both. But
I
mostly
do.
sweet.
Yeah. Fruit or veggies?
Ooh. Both. Plant-based. Sorry.
Digital planner or old school paper and pen?
Oh, I really struggle with this. I love writing, like the physical aspect of writing, but I love iCloud and having everything synced across all of your devices. So it's
Hits
the
are
daily
two
struggle.
terabytes.
Yeah.
Rom-com or action?
Rom-com, always.
Well, love actually, you know.
Yeah, I know.
Do you charge your phone at 80% or 8%?
80.
Cheetos or cheese puffs?
Oh, cheese puffs. Yeah, cheese puffs.
Yeah.
Little Debbie or Hostess?
Oh, man. Um, oh, good old Debbie or Hostess. I'm probably Little Debbie, except I think the Hostess cupcakes are better.
Yeah, yeah. Fruit candy or chocolate?
Okay, I'm terrible. Every time I have candy, I need to have like chocolate first, and then I want to end it with something fruit. Both.
Cardio or resistance?
Um, as a former long distance runner, one needs
Mm.
both. That's why I'm no longer a long distance runner.
Royal icing or buttercream?
Oh, I
Mm,
mean, I would much rather eat buttercream, sorry.
right?
Fondant or isomalt?
Um, neither, but isomalt is just cooler to work with.
Chocolate or vanilla?
Depends on my mood, but if I had to pick chocolate.
Airbrush or scraping?
Okay, I have used an airbrush once in my life, and that was at CookieCon 2020. And I have never scraped.
Oh.
Okay.
So
Macarons or drop cookies?
macarons are drop cookies. Oh no. No, that's not fair. Um, chocolate chip cookies and like chocolate chip cookies fresh out of the oven, number one of all time, but then like a well-made macaron is lingers
Macaron.
for a year.
You're
I
right.
speak French, je parle français. So yeah, macaron.
Florals or wet on wet?
Wet on wet because I'm terrified of florals.
What is the last show that you've binged watched?
Sex education.
I heard that's really good and funny.
It is really good.
Would you rather lose your keys or lose your cell phone?
Oh, keys, because my super has a spare. Yeah.
Would you rather be too hot or too cold?
Too cold. I hate being hot because I have lymphedema.
What's the time? What's our time?
4:29.
Oh, Lisa. Her brain works so fast and she's so decisive, way more than me.
Thank y'all so much for joining us today. We want a special thanks to Grace for being our guest. Yay. Thank you, Grace, so much. So much information. We had a great time. We will see you guys next week live from Reno. We're going to be at CookieCon, right, Alison?
Yep, we will be doing tons of interviews. We'll be walking the vendor hall, showing you what's there, what's at the sugar show. We'll be popping our heads into a couple of classes and just showing you everything that's going on so you don't have any FOMO.
Yay. That's right. We'll also be seeing Sam with Sam's Cookie University. She is sponsoring our show today, and Sam's Cookie University will teach you how to design and print your own cookie cutters. What? Yes. So every Sunday, not Thursday, every Sunday night at 7, they go live in their Facebook group, and they teach you how to manually design a cookie cutter in Fusion 360. But she's not going to be back doing that Sunday live until 3/13 because she is going to be at CookieCon with us.
Yes, at CookieCon, she'll be doing add-on classes, not just for 3D printing, but for this ice cream truck 3D structure cookie that she actually won an award for at Dallas CookieCon last year. So go to samscookiecompany.com and see everything she's got to offer. Don't forget to support us in any way that you can. You can like, follow, subscribe on YouTube, on Instagram, and you can also go to Patreon and subscribe to one of our monthly tiers. Don't forget, in this cookie life, sometimes we crumble,
Sometimes we burn.
but we always rise up. See you
Thank
later.
y'all.